Hi, I'm Jeremy Kirk, Executive Editor with Information Security Media Group. I have the pleasure of speaking today with Ian Yip, who's Chief Technology Officer for McAfee in Asia Pacific. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Ian, you've studied identity and access management for many years.
Yeah.
Blockchain may be able to solve these identity and access management issues. What's your take on some of this?
I very often get asked the question, what security applications are there for blockchain in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think identity at the moment is probably holds the most promise for cybersecurity in having a useful set of use cases for security in the blockchain. At the same time, there are a lot of things that, particularly in identity and access management context, that you don't necessarily need a blockchain to solve. So you've got to go through the natural steps in any blockchain application. Do you need a distributed way to store things? Do you need a database? Do you need a blockchain-specific kind of database? Do you need the integrity? Do you need the non-repudiation? Do you need things to be cryptographically, signed and all that kind of stuff? In a lot of cases, you can just achieve the same kinds of things with a database that's properly protected and encrypted, and you use PKI and keys to solve those issues in a much more performant manner, even if you wanted a distributed way of doing it. So I think the first question always has to be, do you really need a blockchain, or are you doing it because it seems to be the thing to be doing? And I think anecdotally, in most cases, people are doing it because it's the thing that people think they should be doing.
What are some of the traditional sort of issues or problems around identity and access management that organizations run into when they're doing one of those programs?
Obviously, the distributed nature of signing people on. So federated identity was trying to solve some of these issues so that you don't need a central point for all requests to go to. That said, you've still got the identity verification problem, you've got the exchange of tokens, you've got trust that you have to share between the identity provider and the service provider and all those kinds of things. I think those use cases are still very relevant today. By and large, a lot of them are solved by the open standards around the place. It started with the SAML, you've got OpenID, you've got OAuth, you've got and sort of the evolution of those things. And more so they become more open and they become much more standardized. So a lot of the solutions in place and a lot of the implementation of these things have already implemented these things in a way that you can be able to address those use cases across different environments. So you've solved some of that, right? When you start to put things on a blockchain, I think people are trying to maybe future-proof themselves a little bit. When you talk about key exchange, there's a lot of issues around, okay, well, how do you manage that? What happens if you get your keys stolen? Even if you talk about cryptocurrencies, you lose your wallet, guess what? It's gone.
It's gone.
You lose a private key, that's gone. And that's been an issue in key exchange and key management for forever, right? It's just people are starting to realize that could be an issue because they probably never have had to deal with cryptography in the mainstream the way we've had to today because of things like the blockchain.
Yeah. And what's your prediction for IAM and blockchain? Do you think we're going to see viable systems emerge here in the next 5 years, or maybe more than that, or less than that?
I think viable is relative, right? We're already seeing a lot of applications of identity systems on the blockchain, a lot of pilots, a lot of proof of concepts. I won't name any specific companies, but I think in healthcare I've seen some use cases where they specifically look at how we can use a blockchain identity on healthcare for patient care and trying to protect information that way. That said, there's still a lot of issues around privacy, particularly if you're talking about the GDPR in Europe. What happens if you store information on the blockchain in perpetuity? You have to be very careful what you do and don't put on there, because in certain cases you sort of break GDPR compliance by putting too much on there. And those are things that you need to think through. But I think there are some initial applications of identity on the blockchain that people are at least experimenting with. And I think that there's a real need to explore a little bit more, but maybe not jump too far in the deep end just yet. In terms of whether it's viable, I think someone over the next 3 to 5 years will work out a really good way to use it. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say someone will figure out a killer app in identity for the blockchain, which is what cryptocurrencies really have been for the blockchain. And that's really the wait and see approach that most of the security industry in general is kind of taking in terms of the approach to, can blockchain really solve a lot of these security issues that we have?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ian.
No worries.
I've been speaking with Ian Yip, who's Chief Technology Officer with McAfee in Asia Pacific. For Information Security Media Group, I'm Jeremy Kirk.